Would You Stay or Let Go? A love story that ended with a key. Reddit, true story. Have you ever held something so small in your hand? Something that felt heavy, with all the words left unspoken. A photograph. A letter. A key. A tiny object that carries the weight of 1,000 memories. 1,000 promises. 1,000 silent goodbyes. Today, we are stepping into a story about love. About the spaces we build together, and the painful realization that sometimes those spaces are not meant to last. Claire and Ryan thought they had found forever. A love story that survived cities, changing seasons, and late-night dreams. But love does not always end with slammed doors or shouted arguments. Sometimes it ends with a quiet conversation, a tired smile, and a velvet box holding more heartbreak than hope. What would you do if the person you loved handed you a key? Not to their heart, but to a life without them. Would you fight to stay? Would you cling to the memories? Or would you find the strength to let go of the home you once built together? This is not just a story about a breakup. It is about the slow, quiet heartbreak that comes when two people drift apart, while still trying to hold on. Stay with us, because Claire's story might just remind you of the moments you have loved and lost, of the silent goodbyes you never got to say, and of the quiet strength it takes to finally walk away. Claire and Ryan's love story was not born out of fairy tales. It was born out of messy summer nights in Chicago, out of cheap concerts, late-night drives, and dreams whispered in small apartments with peeling walls. It was real. It was imperfect. But it was theirs. They built a life, one little piece at a time, choosing furniture that barely fit through their narrow apartment door, arguing over what to cook for dinner, laughing until 3 in the morning about inside jokes no one else would ever understand. For a while it felt like forever, but forever has a way of fading when you are not looking. At first, it was the small things. Ryan started coming home later, blaming work deadlines. Claire stopped waiting up for him, choosing instead to fall asleep on the couch with the TV humming in the background. They sat across from each other at dinner, but somehow felt a million miles apart. The anniversary came almost like an afterthought. There were no big plans, no elaborate surprises, just a small velvet box handed to Claire across the table. For a brief moment, her heart raced. Hope flickered in her chest. Maybe, just maybe, he was ready to promise forever again. But inside the box was not a ring. It was a key, a simple silver key, cold, heavy, silent. Ryan looked at her, eyes tired but gentle, and said quietly, "I think we need some space, Claire. I still love you, but maybe living apart for a while will help us figure things out." No arguments, no accusations, just exhaustion. Claire moved into the second apartment a few blocks away, a small place with creaky floors and windows that let in too much wind. She told herself it was temporary. She told herself it was a new beginning, a chance to find herself again. But the loneliness seeped into the walls. The nights felt longer, the silence heavier. She waited for Ryan to call, to ask her to come back, to fight for the love they had built. But days turned into weeks. And when she finally walked past their old apartment one evening, she saw it. Another jacket hanging by the door. Laughter spilling through a half-open window. A life moving forward without her. The key she had been given was not a bridge back to love. It was an exit door she had not wanted to walk through. One rainy night, standing by the river, Claire let the key slip from her fingers. She watched it sink into the dark water, without a splash, without a sound. No big speeches, no dramatic closure, just a quiet goodbye to a love that once felt like home and now belonged to someone else. Sometimes the saddest endings do not come with slammed doors. They come with small velvet boxes and keys that open empty apartments. Claire's story is not just about heartbreak. It is about the slow unraveling of something once beautiful, the way love does not always die in storms. Sometimes it fades in the quiet, between two beating hearts. When Ryan handed Claire that key, it was not a solution. It was a silent admission, a soft surrender. He still cared. He still loved in some distant, nostalgic way. But not enough to fight. Not enough to stay. And maybe that is the hardest truth to face. That sometimes the people who say they love us still choose to walk away. Not with cruelty, but with exhaustion. Claire's greatest act of strength was not in packing her things. It was not in moving to a new apartment. Her true strength was in realizing that she deserved a love that did not need distance to survive. Because real love does not ask for space to figure itself out. It does not offer a key to somewhere else, while holding on to memories of what once was. Real love stays, it grows. It leans in, even when things get messy and hard. Claire's choice to let go of the key, to let it sink into the river, was not about anger or revenge. It was about reclaiming herself, her peace, her future. It was about accepting that sometimes closure does not come wrapped in neat conversations or tearful reunions. Sometimes closure comes in the form of silence, of choosing not to chase someone who stopped choosing. Claire's story reminds us that love without commitment is a house built on sand, beautiful to look at, but destined to fall with the first strong wind. And when the walls begin to crack, when the laughter fades, when the promises become empty, keys to empty rooms, the bravest thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact, even if your hands are trembling, even if your heart is breaking, because your worth was never meant to be locked inside someone else's indecision. Claire's story touched so many hearts. Her silent goodbye spoke louder than 1,000 words ever could. Now, let us take a moment to hear what the Reddit community had to say. Their thoughts, reflections, and emotions are just as powerful as the story itself. Let us dive into some of the most impactful comments. Chasing Sunsets commented, "The saddest breakups are the ones without fights or screaming. When you realize love died quietly while you were busy hoping 7K likes." This comment captures the heartbreak so well. Sometimes the silence hurts more than any argument ever could, because it means there is nothing left to fight for. Finding my north shared. Giving someone a key to an empty apartment is the cruelest kind of goodbye. It pretends to offer hope, but really offers nothing. 2K likes. Absolutely! That key was never about rebuilding. It was about making the separation seem less harsh, but in the end, it just made the goodbye even colder. Sunt Quiet Rebel 7 wrote, "Claire's real victory was not throwing the key into the river. It was choosing herself over a love that no longer chose her." 9K likes. Exactly. The real power comes not from anger, but from choosing peace. Choosing yourself is the bravest decision you can make when someone else cannot choose you. A broken but healing said, "I learned the hard way that sometimes space is just a softer word for leaving. Claire's story reminded me of my own." 8K likes. You are not alone. Many people have been through this silent ending, and Claire's strength shows that healing begins the moment we stop waiting for someone to come back. Stars. Overcities commented, The key was never about giving her another home. It was about easing his own guilt. Claire deserved more than a halfway goodbye. And son K likes. So well said Claire deserved a full love, not a half-hearted gesture, not a goodbye disguised as kindness. Thank you to everyone who shared their heartfelt thoughts on Claire's journey. This story is a reminder that love should never leave you guessing. And closure sometimes comes not from others, but from the strength you find within yourself. If you have ever experienced a silent goodbye like Claire, share your story in the comments below, and if you felt connected to today's story. Remember to like and subscribe for more true stories that speak to the soul. He sent back every letter she wrote, but she chose herself. True Reddit story. Have you ever held a piece of your past in your hands? Something you thought you had buried long ago? Something that still has the power to make your heart ache in ways you forgot you could feel. A letter, a photograph, an old ticket stub. Sometimes the past does not knock politely at your door. Sometimes it barges in uninvited, bringing with it memories you spent years trying to forget. Today, we step into the story of Anna, a woman who loved with her whole heart, who believed in promises whispered across state lines, who wrote letters filled with hope during nights when love felt 1,000 miles away. But love is not always enough, and sometimes silence speaks louder than any goodbye. 2 years after the calls stopped, after the texts went unanswered, after the future she had dreamed of faded into echoes, Anna opened her front door and found the past waiting for her. Not with an apology, not with a second chance, but with a stack of letters. Every word she had ever written returned to her in silence. What would you do if the love you once begged for came back to you like a box of forgotten dreams? Would you break? Would you fight? Or would you finally set yourself free? This is not just a story about heartbreak. It is about resilience, about finding your own closure when the world refuses to give it to you. Stay with us, because Anna's story might just remind you of a truth we all have to learn sooner or later. You do not need an apology to heal. You only need yourself. Anna and Michael's love was built in the heart of Seattle, in rainy bookstores, in coffee shops buzzing with quiet music, in whispered dreams about futures they were sure would intertwine. They were young, hopeful, naive enough to believe that love alone could outlast distance and ambition. When Michael accepted a promotion in Miami, they promised nothing would change. They made plans, late-night phone calls stretching into dawn. Plane tickets booked months in advance, letters sent across the miles carrying promises that seemed too big to break. But life has a way of testing even the strongest hearts. The phone calls grew shorter, the visits became more strained, and somewhere between missed birthdays and forgotten anniversaries, the silence crept in. At first, Anna made excuses. He was busy. He was tired. He was stressed. She wrote more letters, poured her heart onto paper, believing that words could stitch the widening gap between them. But one day, the calls simply stopped. No final conversation, no angry fight, no dramatic ending, just nothing. Anna waited. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months. Eventually, she stopped checking her phone before falling asleep. She stopped believing he would come back. She built a new life slowly, painfully. She stopped talking about him, stopped imagining he would walk back through her door. Until one rainy Wednesday morning, when she opened her front door and found a package sitting on the mat. No name, no return address, Just her name scrawled in handwriting she knew too well. Inside a stack of old letters, the same letters she had written to him, folded carefully, untouched, unread. It felt like touching a ghost. Each letter, a snapshot of a girl who had loved so blindly, so fiercely, so unconditionally. Michael had kept them, and now without a word, he had sent them back. No explanation, no apology, just a silent acknowledgement of everything they had been and everything they could never be. Anna sat on the kitchen floor, surrounded by the fragments of her past. She read a few lines, recognized the desperate hope in her own words, the promises she had made to a boy who had already let go. At first she wanted to scream, to cry, to rage at the unfairness of it all. But as she sat there, the tears did not come. Instead, a strange kind of peace settled over her, because in that moment she realized something. She did not need his apology. She did not need his closure. She did not need to reopen wounds just to understand why they bled. All she needed was herself. Anna tied the letters together with a red ribbon, placed them gently into a small box, and tucked them away, not as a reminder of pain, but as a testament to how far she had come. That afternoon she stepped outside into the sunlight, into her future, and with every step, she left behind the girl who once waited for a love that was never coming back. Sometimes closure does not arrive with a knock on the door. Sometimes it comes in the form of silence, a sealed box, a stack of unread letters returned by the person who once meant everything. Anna's story is not just about heartbreak. It is about the power of unanswered questions and what we choose to do when the apology never comes. When Michael sent those letters back without a word, he sent a message far louder than anything he could have written. He did not return to reconnect. He did not ask for forgiveness. He simply gave the pain back and walked away for good. And yet Anna did not crumble, because in that moment she discovered something powerful, that healing does not always come from the one who hurt you. Sometimes it comes from finally letting go of the version of yourself who kept waiting for answers. So many of us hold on to the past, hoping that one day we will hear, "I'm sorry. I was wrong. I should have stayed." But what if that day never comes? What if the apology we are waiting for is not what we really need? Anna realized that closure is not a gift someone gives you. It is a decision you make for yourself. She did not need to understand why he left. She did not need to reread every word she had written, trying to decode where it all went wrong. She needed to choose peace over pain, grace over resentment, and presence over the haunting weight of what could have been. And in doing that, she reminded us all of something simple but deeply important. You do not need someone else to set you free. You can do that on your own. You do not need a perfect goodbye. To begin again, you only need to believe that what lies ahead is worth more than anything you left behind. Anna's story touched so many hearts. It was not just about losing love. It was about finding strength in silence. Now, let us hear what the Reddit community had to say about her journey. Their words are filled with empathy, resilience, and truth. Let us dive into some of the most powerful comments. To Heart in the Rain commented, "Closure is not something they owe you. It is something you owe yourself." 75K likes. Exactly, waiting for someone else to fix your broken heart can feel endless. Anna's strength came from realizing she did not have to wait anymore. Lost. Letters shared. Sending the letters back was cruel, but choosing not to read them again was Anna's real victory. 8 3K likes. So true. Sometimes the greatest act of healing is choosing not to reopen wounds, just to remember why they hurt. You silent echoes a 2 wrote, he returned her letters, but she returned herself to herself. That is the closure she needed. 90K likes. Beautifully said. Sometimes the most powerful journey is the one back to yourself. No explanations, no apologies needed. So moving forward. Now said, the strength it takes to face the past and still choose the future is unmatched. Anna is an inspiration. 7K likes. Absolutely, it is easy to get stuck in what was. It is much harder and braver to walk toward what can be. Oh, brighter days, one commented. Real love does not leave you questioning your worth. Real love chooses you even on the hard days. 5K likes. So powerful, Anna deserved a love that did not need to be begged for. We all do. Thank you to everyone who shared their beautiful thoughts and reflections. Anna's story is a reminder that sometimes the greatest love you will ever find is the love you give yourself. Have you ever faced a moment where you had to create your own closure? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart, remember to like and subscribe for more real-life journeys that remind us we are stronger than we think. She wrote the text that could have changed everything and then deleted it. True Reddit story. Have you ever written a message you never sent, typed out all the words you were too afraid to say out loud, held your breath, hovered your thumb over the send button, and then deleted it all? Sometimes the most painful goodbyes are the ones we never speak, the ones that live only in our hearts. In the late-night drafts we never finish. In the quiet decisions we make when no one is watching. Tonight we step into the story of Emily, a woman who loved deeply, fought quietly, and ultimately realized that some battles are not meant to be fought alone. She believed in promises, in effort, in the kind of love that could survive distance and time. But love, real love, is not supposed to feel like waiting by the phone. It is not supposed to feel like questioning your own worth every time a text goes unanswered. Emily's journey is not just about heartbreak. It is about self-respect, about recognizing when holding on is hurting more than letting go. Because sometimes the strongest thing you can do is not to fight harder, not to chase louder, but to choose silence, to choose yourself. Stay with us, because Emily's story will remind you that strength is not always loud. Sometimes it is found in the quiet click of a backspace button, in the unsent text, and in the silent courage it takes to walk away with your head held high. Emily and Jack had the kind of love that others admired, the kind that seemed easy from the outside, full of laughter, inside jokes, and plans for a future they both believed in. They met at a rooftop party under the warm San Diego sky, two dreamers standing on the edge of adulthood, both stubborn enough to believe they could chase their careers and still hold on to each other no matter what. And for a while, they did. They built memories, coffee shop dates between meetings, late-night video calls after long work shifts, plans whispered at midnight about the cities they would travel to, the life they would one day build together. But life has a way of testing even the strongest bonds. Jack got a job offer in New York. Emily's career began to bloom in California. Neither wanted to ask the other to stay. Neither wanted to be the villain in the story, so they promised to make it work. At first they did. Video calls filled with tired smiles, weekend flights squeezed between deadlines. But slowly, the space between them grew heavier. Texts went unanswered for longer. Phone calls became rushed. Updates instead of shared moments. Plans started with maybe instead of when. Emily felt it, the slow pulling away, the quiet vanishing of something once so certain. One night after hours of refreshing her phone, waiting for a reply that never came, Emily broke. She opened her phone and began typing. The words spilled out faster than she could control. Raw, honest, desperate telling. Jack how forgotten she felt, telling him how love should not feel like an afterthought. Telling him how she missed the way he used to fight for them, the way he used to fight for her. The message was long, too long, a river of everything she had swallowed for months. Her thumb hovered over the send button. It would have been so easy to send it, to demand an answer, to beg for the attention she deserved. But as she sat there in the stillness of her tiny living room, she realized something. If she had to beg for love, then it was no longer love. It was longing. It was loneliness dressed up as hope, and Emily deserved more than that. She stared at the glowing screen, tears blurring the words she had poured her heart into. And slowly, one by one, she erased them until there was nothing left but silence. No message, no confrontation, no goodbye, just a choice. A quiet, painful, powerful choice to stop reaching out to someone who had already stopped reaching back. Emily put her phone down, wrapped herself in a blanket, and for the first time in a long time, she comforted herself. Instead of waiting for someone else to do it, there was no final phone call, no dramatic ending, just an unsent text, and the soft, steady heartbeat of a woman who finally chose herself. Sometimes, the loudest ending is the one that happens in complete silence. No slammed doors, no final arguments, no closure wrapped in perfect words, just an unsent message, and the quiet realization that some people leave long before they actually say goodbye. Emily's story is not just about heartbreak, it is about the courage it takes to recognize when love has become one-sided. It is easy to believe that if we try harder, say the right thing, send one more message, hold on just a little longer, maybe things will go back to how they were. Maybe they will remember. Maybe they will come back. But real love does not need to be chased. Real love does not leave you questioning your worth. Real love shows up, even when it is inconvenient, even when life gets messy. Emily realized something most of us take years to learn. If you have to beg for a place in someone's heart, you were never truly in it. Love should feel like peace, not anxiety. It should feel like safety, not guessing games. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is to walk away without needing the last word, without sending that text, without demanding an explanation. Because sometimes, the real closure, the real strength is found not in getting answers from someone else, but in choosing to answer your own soul's call for dignity and self-respect. Emily chose silence, not because she had nothing left to say, but because she realized she had already said enough. She chose herself over waiting for someone who had already made a choice, and in doing so, she taught us something powerful. Sometimes strength looks like typing every word you wish they knew, and then choosing to delete it all and keep that love for yourself instead. Emily's story resonated with so many hearts because sometimes the hardest goodbyes are the ones we never say out loud. Let us take a moment to hear what the Reddit community shared. Their words are filled with strength, empathy, and powerful truths. Here are some of the most touching comments. Soulful Whispers commented, "Choosing silence over begging for love is the loudest kind of self-respect." 75K likes. Absolutely. Sometimes not saying anything at all speaks louder than any 1,000-word text ever could. Fading echoes, 9-inch shared. The text you never send is often the one that saves you from holding on to someone who already let go. 1K likes. This is so true. Emily's strength was not in typing the message. It was in choosing herself over needing a reply. Broken. To Brave wrote, "Real love does not leave you staring at your phone, wondering if you still matter. If you have to wonder, it is already gone." 8K likes. Such a painful truth. Love should feel certain even on the hard days, not like a constant guessing game. Quietly. Healing said, "One day you will realize the text you never sent was the first step towards loving yourself better." After 9K likes. So beautifully said. Sometimes letting go of the need to explain is the greatest act of self-love you can give yourself. From our ashes. Rise commented, "Not every chapter deserves closure from someone else. Sometimes you are the author of your own ending." 8K likes. Exactly. Emily did not need Jack's words to close her story. She needed her own choice, her own voice, and her own peace. Thank you to everyone who shared their wisdom and strength. In the comments, Emily's journey reminds us all that sometimes healing does not come from others. It comes from within. Have you ever been in a situation where you chose silence over chasing closure? Share your story in the comments below. And if you found a piece of yourself in Emily's story, remember to like and subscribe for more real-life journeys that touch the soul.